हम नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लेकर के आ रहे हैं। सामान्य मानवी की जरूरतों के टैक्स भारी मात्रा में कम कर दिए जाएंगे।
What is the new two-tier GST regime that has been announced? What it means for common people and how it will impact the economy as well as the states. On this Independence Day, our Prime Minister announced one of the biggest tax reforms that we have seen since the introduction of GST in 2017. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to understand that what is the new GST regime, what are the components associated with it and why it becomes important for the common man, economy and the states. So let us begin with understanding this very announcement which was made in the Independence Day speech which was given by our Prime Minister, and he introduced this new GST regime through this announcement where the vision of this particular change is very clear, where they are focusing that the goods and services tax should not be a burden on the common man. It should be an enabler for the common man, for the businesses and for the economy itself. And with this very clear and simple message, this new tax regime will be followed up and most likely it would be rolled out by Diwali this year. Now this whole change clearly aligns with the broader theme that the Indian government is focusing on, that is ease of living as well as ease of doing business. So these steps or the reforms are directly related to the broader understanding and the broader philosophy for the Indian economy as a whole, that we want to simplify rules, we want to simplify compliance so that there is ease of doing business also, there is growth of economy also, and the livability in the country is also definitely a factor in here. So when we are talking about such important changes, it becomes very important for us to understand that where is this coming from. So if we talk about the historical context of this particular regime change that has been announced, GST was introduced in 2017 and it had multiple slabs. So we are talking about 5%, 12%, 18%, 28% and then we also had cess. So these multiple slabs created confusion, complication, which increased the legal burden also and the compliance burden on the payers as well. So that is what urged this change, that there is a requirement of simplification, and that became a main trigger point as well here. Another trigger point is the fact that in the upcoming year, by March 2026, the compensation cess, which is part of GST in form of slab, it is going to end. So there needs to be a replacement or restructuring of rates so that the government is able to maintain the revenue. यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट के पास जो पैसा आ रहा है सेस के थ्रू वो कम ना हो जाए, तो जरूरत है कि यहाँ पे उसको रीस्ट्रक्चर किया जाए ताकि जितना रेवेन्यू गवर्नमेंट के पास पहुंच रहा है उतना वहां पर मेंटेन्ड रहे. Whenever I am explaining the concept, whenever it is getting difficult, I will switch to Hindi to explain it to the wider audience, but everything would be repeated in English as well, so none of you are missing out on anything. When we talk about this reform itself, we have to understand that this new regime becomes politically as well as economically very important here. Why economically it becomes important? It becomes important because the very idea of introduction of goods and services tax was one nation, one tax, one market. But when we are talking about one tax and we are seeing multiple tax slabs, this is not working out. So economically, the idea of one nation, one tax, here we will be able to see closer implementation because these tax slabs are going to be reduced. We'll be getting into the newer slabs and the details from here. And furthermore, the revenue that comes to the government, the 30% as per the latest data comes from GST itself. So the future sustainability of the revenue that is coming to the government, if that has to be maintained, that is why this reform becomes important. Now, another economic factor apart from the future sustainability of the revenue is the fact it is going to affect MSMEs, if it is going to affect the middle class, and it is going to affect the businesses. And these are the key electoral voters. Apart from being the main pillars of our economy as well, these are key electoral voters. So that is an appeasement to the voters as well, which is the political significance here. And these being the key pillars and their contribution to economy and easing out the burden on them becomes the economic significance here. Now let us move ahead and understand this new regime and the changes that might come with it. So the first thing that has been done, that the structure has been simplified. यहाँ पे structure को जो है आसान कर दिया गया है. जहाँ पे हमारे पास multiple slabs होते थे, उनको 2 slabs में change कर दिया गया है. All the multiple slabs have been changed, have been brought into 2 simple slabs. Now, what are those 2 slabs? The first one is 18% and the other one is 5%. If you talk about 2024, and if we look at the 18% slab, there were almost 65% goods and services which were present in this slab. Now, when we are changing the slabs, that means when we are reducing the slabs, that means we are not just simplifying the process, but we are also reducing the disputes, which we are also reducing the legal burden that lay on the common man as well as the government. The second thing related to simplification of the structure is coming in is the abolition of middle slabs. So if we are talking about only 2 slabs being present, 5 and 18%, any slab that was in between them, that is 12%, and after 18 that was 28%, it is not going to exist. That means 12% and 28% they have been removed, and most items from the 28% they have been shifted to 18%. That means you have to pay lesser GST on appliances, auto parts, and the goods which were lying in the slab of 12%, that will be shifted to 5% like processed food. Now this is the simplification that has been done at the government's end, and we will be reaping direct benefits because the indirect tax is reducing on this particular front. Now just a quick question, what is the difference between indirect tax and direct tax? Definitely we know that GST is a form of, GST is an example of indirect tax, so that I know that you are very well clear that what is the difference between direct tax and indirect tax. Also put in some examples here. Now, apart from these 2 slabs, just to maintain the revenue that was coming from cess, because cess will not be existing from March 2026, we also have found a place in the structuring of sins tax. So, when we are talking about another slab that has emerged as sins goods tax. What are sin goods? When we are talking about any good that is harmful for an individual or for the society as a whole, for example, tobacco, alcohol, they are discouraged using taxation. So the tax which is applied on goods which are harmful for the society, that is known as sins goods tax. जिस चीज से भी किसी इंसान को, किसी सोसाइटी को यहाँ पर नुकसान होता है, उन चीजों को हम सिन गुड्स कहते हैं, और ऐसे गुड्स को यहाँ पर डिस्करेज किया जाता है. किस तरीके से? किस यहाँ पे टैक्सेशन के थ्रू, एंड इसी टैक्स को हम सिन गुड्स टैक्स कहते हैं. अब यहाँ पे जो सिन गुड्स हैं, जो कि अक्सर हमने पिछले अगर रिजीम में हम देखें तो अभी 28% या मोर में है. सेस का भी जो सबसे ज्यादा कंट्रीब्यूशन है, तो आप देखेंगे तो आपको टोबैको इंडस्ट्री से आता हुआ मिलेगा. ऑलमोस्ट 53,000 करोड़ कमिंग इन सेस फ्रॉम ओनली टोबैको इंडस्ट्री. अब यहाँ पे अगर सेस हट जाएगा तो रेवेन्यू में लॉस होगा, तो हम इसको कैसे मैनेज करेंगे? हमने सिन टैक्स लगा दिया है, 40% का स्लैब रखा है. सो to manage the revenue coming in from cess, we have put in the sin goods tax, which is at the 40% slab for goods like tobacco, alcohol, luxury cars, aerated drinks, etc. The whole focus has been here on discouraging the individuals and society, as well as preventing the revenue loss that government would have to handle after the cess withdrawal. Now, furthermore, we also need to understand that what is the shift that we are seeing in the overall tax philosophy. The first thing that we have understood the vision as well, that it is simplification. Another thing that has been highlighted from the end of the government is the fact that we are moving in terms of tax from being revenue-centric, that means maximizing government income, to the fact that we are becoming consumer-centric. That means we want affordability and equity for consumers. And that is why this is being designed to support the poor and middle class, so that the essentials, their cost becomes lower, MSMEs, so that it is easier for them to comply and they have less paperwork to handle, and farmers, so that their input cost reduces on farm machinery supplies and they are able to actually get the worth of money that the effort they are putting in for. Now let us move and understand the consequences associated with these reforms. When we look at consumers, all of us are going to get lower price for household items. That will definitely increase our purchasing power. How? Let's just say we have 100 rupees. If any good was for 20 rupees, we could only buy 5 of it. But because of reduction of prices, let's just say it becomes of 15 rupees, we might be able to buy more in that same given money. Furthermore, we are also going to see an estimated amount of savings, because a middle class family, because the slabs and the rates have reduced, they will be able to save 5 to 7% annually on consumer durables and food items as well. Apart from this, we will also be seeing that the government revenue will also find a shift. So if we look at short term, the revenue might see a dip in the form of 0.5 to 0.8% of GDP, because the cess will be removed and the taxation is being lowered. But in the longer run, there is a possibility, because of the ease, the simplification, the compliance will increase. At present, we are finding 87% compliance, and because of simplification, there will be reduced evasion as well. That will balance the government revenue. So if we talk about the GST compliance, we have seen in recent years from 65% when it was introduced to almost 87% in the last fiscal year, and we are expecting that in coming times and with these changes, it will further improve. But if we talk about another end, that is businesses, it is a good news for them as well, because it will be easier filing. That means limited rates are there. That means limited disputes will be arising, and it will reduce the compliance cost for especially MSMEs by 20 to 25%. Furthermore, we'll also see the effect of sin goods taxation. It will save the revenue loss that would have happened to the government. It will push the society in a better direction, and it will also affect and protect the public health. So if we talk about tobacco consumption, we see almost 1.3 million deaths annually, and that is ICMR data of 2023. We can see more. If we look at the fresh data, we'll find more. So this is where we are going to see that high tax will continue to serve as discouragement, as well as it will facilitate the government revenue as well. Now, when we talk about this situation, one important component that becomes important for us to understand is the fact that how will this actually roll out? What is the way ahead? So the first thing that we have to understand in this particular chain, center-state dynamics become very important, because any final decision that will come through GST Council itself. When we are talking about GST Council, it have 50% state and 50% states. And it is very much important that this portion definitely approves of this regime. When we are talking about GST Council, it is important that the center and state must come to a consensus, because that is how GST Council approves, and that is why it becomes that it will be a factor in where center and state need to come to the same platform. Because many states, for example, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, they might resist against this change because they have high value goods and they are major revenue sources for the states. As of now, it is two group of ministers which are already reviewing rate rationalization as well and compensation cess exit as well. So this is something that needs to be thought through, and states need to be brought on this very same platform as the center because state remains as much as the affected party as the center remains. Now, what do you think about the GST 2.0, and is this actually a revolution, or it needs more refinement in coming times to deliver the impact of one nation, one tax? Now, that was all from my side. Thank you so much.